The sound that frightened Danielle Brooks was not a shout, but the quiet click of a lock behind her. At 12:47 in the morning, the Moretti mansion felt carved from winter itself, all black marble, dark wood, and windows reflecting the sleeping lights of Chicago. Danielle sat on the kitchen floor beside the pantry door, a white dish towel pressed against her mouth as tears slipped down her deep brown cheeks. She had spent 20 minutes trying not to make a sound. She had failed. Then Vincent Moretti entered the kitchen. The white Mafia Boss stopped beneath the dim pendant lights, his charcoal suit still perfectly pressed despite the late hour, his gray eyes moving from Danielle to the empty floor around her. Danielle stood too quickly. "I am sorry, sir." Her voice cracked. She immediately looked down. "I will clean this." Vincent did not move. "Clean what?" Danielle froze. There was no broken glass, no spilled wine, no stain on the marble. Only a woman holding a towel as if tears were something an employee should wipe away before management noticed. Vincent closed the kitchen door. Click. Danielle stepped backward so fast her shoulder touched the pantry. Vincent saw it. He saw her fingers tighten around the towel. He saw her eyes move toward the door, then toward him, calculating distance in a room she had cleaned 100 times. Something cold changed in his expression. Not anger at her. Recognition. Vincent reached into his pocket, removed the brass key, and placed it on the center island. Then he stepped back 6 feet. "The key is yours." Danielle stared at him. Vincent kept both hands visible at his sides. "The door is locked from everyone outside this room," he said. "Not from you." Her eyes returned to the key. "Mr. Moretti, I should finish the pantry. It is almost 1 in the morning. I am behind." "You are never behind." Danielle swallowed. Vincent knew that because Vincent knew everything that happened in his house. At least, he had believed he did. She cleaned rooms before anyone asked. Replaced coffee before cups were empty. Remembered which guests wanted sparkling water and which staff members took milk. She moved through his mansion so quietly. That most powerful man at his dinner table never learned her name. Vincent had learned it 3 weeks earlier. He did not know why he remembered it. Tonight, he knew why. Danielle. Her face tightened when he said her name. "Look at me." She did, slowly. Her eyes were red. Vincent had watched men lie across polished tables without blinking. He had watched attorneys hide panic behind $10,000 suits. Danielle was doing neither. She was trying to disappear while standing directly in front of him. "Who hurt you?" The question entered the kitchen quietly. Danielle's lips parted. No answer came. Vincent waited. 5 seconds. 10. The refrigerator hummed behind them. Snow tapped softly against the windows. "Nobody," she whispered. Vincent's gaze remained steady. "That is not true." Danielle looked at the key again. "You do not know me, sir." "No," his answer was immediate. "But I know fear." Her eyes lifted. For one brief second, something passed across her face. Surprise. Then the wall returned. "I am tired." "Then sit." "I would rather finish working." "Danielle." His voice was controlled, but softer now. "You apologized for making a mess when there was nothing on the floor." She said nothing. "You heard the door lock and moved away from me." Silence. "And you have checked that hallway 3 times since I walked in." Danielle's breathing changed. Vincent noticed. Of course he noticed. Men survived around Vincent Moretti because he noticed what other people missed. But standing in his own kitchen, watching a Black Maid tremble beneath warm yellow light, he understood something deeply uncomfortable. Someone else had been watching her too. "I cannot help you if you lie to me," Vincent said. Danielle gave a small, broken laugh. "Men like you always say that." Vincent went still. "Men like me." Danielle immediately regretted the words. "I am sorry. Stop apologizing." She flinched. Vincent lowered his voice. "Please." The words sounded unfamiliar coming from him. Danielle stared. Vincent pulled out a chair on the far side of the island and sat down, leaving the key between them. He did not ask another question. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Danielle slowly sat. On the opposite side, tears gathered again, and this time she did not reach for the towel. Vincent waited. Danielle looked toward the locked door, then at the key, then at the man everyone in Chicago feared. "If I tell you," she whispered, "you will not believe me." Vincent's gray eyes hardened. "Try me." Danielle closed her eyes. And 3 weeks earlier, before the tears, before the locked kitchen, before Vincent Moretti understood that fear had been living inside his mansion, a silver spoon fell from Danielle's hand because one man had spoken only 2 words. 3 weeks earlier, Danielle Brooks arrived at the Moretti mansion at 6:15 in the morning carrying a canvas lunch bag, a second-hand winter coat, and one rule her mother had taught her before Danielle was old enough to understand why it mattered. In wealthy homes, notice everything and make sure nobody notices you. The mansion stood near Chicago's Gold Coast, for stories of limestone and black iron facing a street where even the snow seemed cleaner. Danielle entered through the staff door, changed into her pale gray housekeeping uniform, tied her natural black hair neatly back, and listened while the head housekeeper explained the schedule. Breakfast service at 7. East bedrooms by 10. Private offices only when authorized. Never enter the West office while Mr. Whitmore was working. Danielle remembered every instruction. She always did. Vincent Moretti first saw her carrying fresh linens through the second-floor hallway. He walked past with Anthony Russo, speaking quietly about a meeting downtown. Danielle stepped aside. Vincent did not look at her. She expected nothing else. Men like Vincent lived inside a different kind of weather. Rooms adjusted when they entered. Conversations became careful. Even Anthony, who had worked beside him for years, watched Vincent's expression before changing a subject. Danielle simply continued toward the guest rooms. By the end of her first week, she understood the house better than most people who visited it. Vincent drank black coffee before 7 and rarely finished the second cup. Anthony forgot his gloves twice a week. The chef hummed old Motown songs. When nervous, Grant Whitmore arrived every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 in the evening and used the West office until nearly midnight. Danielle learned one more thing. Grant knew her name before she introduced herself. Danielle Brooks, he said one Thursday evening as she replaced flowers in the library. She turned. Grant stood in the doorway wearing a navy suit and a pleasant smile. He was perhaps 50, silver at the temples, polished in the effortless way of men who expected doors to open. Yes, sir. Lillian Brooks's daughter. Danielle's fingers tightened around the glass vase. You knew my mother? Not personally. Grant smiled. But I know records. He walked away before she could ask what he meant. That night, Danielle searched her mother's name through every old folder she still kept at home. Medical bills, payment plans, letters from collection agencies. Lillian Brooks had spent her final 2 years receiving treatment Danielle could barely afford, and after her death, the paperwork remained like an echo no amount of grief could silence. Danielle had taken the Moretti job because it paid $3 more per hour than her last position. $3 mattered. $3 bought groceries. $3 kept the heat running through a Chicago winter. The next Tuesday, Grant found her near the West hallway. Your mother's Mercy Lake account, he said quietly. Danielle stopped. Excuse me. Old medical debt. His smile remained. Complicated things, records. Danielle looked toward the main staircase. Nobody was there. Why are you talking about my mother? Conversation. I do not want this conversation. She walked away. Grant did not follow. That should have comforted her. It did not. Over the next 2 weeks, Danielle became invisible with greater precision. When Grant arrived, she worked upstairs. When he entered the library, she found a reason to check the laundry room. She never complained, never reported him. She had spent enough years working in hotels and private homes to understand how quickly a woman could become the problem simply by describing one. Vincent noticed none of this at first. What he noticed was an invoice. A catering company had charged the estate twice for the same private dinner, a $38,000 billing error hidden across 4 pages of itemized expenses. Vincent found a yellow note attached to the file. Duplicate service date. Please verify before payment. D. Brooks. He called the senior house supervisor into his office. Who is D. Brooks? The woman hesitated. Danielle. Housekeeping. Vincent looked at the invoice again. Housekeeping reviews financial statements. No, sir. The folder was left in the breakfast room. She noticed the dates while clearing coffee. And she gave this to you? Yes. Why is your name on the correction report? The supervisor's face changed. Vincent waited. I submitted it, she said carefully. That was not my question. Silence. Vincent leaned back. Send Danielle Brooks to my office. 10 minutes later, Danielle stood in front of his desk, hands folded, expression calm. You found the duplicate charge, Vincent said. Yes, sir. $38,000. Yes. Your supervisor took credit. Danielle's eyes remained steady. The bill was corrected. That was not my question. Something almost changed in her expression. I was hired to notice what other people miss, Mr. Moretti. Vincent studied her. Danielle did not smile. She did not ask for recognition. She simply waited to return to work. Vincent nodded toward the door. Thank you, Danielle. She left. That evening, Vincent remembered her name. 2 days later, he stood in the hallway outside the kitchen when Grant Whitmore entered and spoke 2 quiet words. Careful, Danielle. A silver spoon slipped from her hand and struck the marble floor. The sound was small. Her fear was not. Vincent Moretti had built his life around reactions, because reactions told the truth long before words learned how to lie. Grant Whitmore smiled when challenged. Anthony Russo became quieter when danger felt close. Men asking for money touched their watches. Men hiding mistakes explained too much. Danielle Brooks dropped 1 silver spoon, and Vincent knew immediately that the spoon had nothing to do with her hands. The kitchen went silent. Grant stood near the doorway in his navy suit, his expression pleasant, almost paternal. Danielle bent quickly to retrieve the spoon. I am sorry. Grant's smile widened by a fraction. Careful, Danielle. There it was again. 2 ordinary words. Danielle's shoulders tightened. Vincent watched from the hallway. Is there a problem? He asked. Grant turned smoothly. Vincent, I did not hear you. Most people do not. Vincent entered the kitchen. Danielle placed the spoon on the counter and reached for a clean one. Her movements were precise, but too precise now. Every gesture looked measured. No problem, Grant said. Miss Brooks is adjusting to the household. Danielle kept her eyes on the silverware. Vincent looked at her. Danielle, everything is fine, Mr. Moretti. Grant checked his cuff. Vincent noticed Danielle's fingers stop moving until Grant walked away. Only then did she breathe normally. Vincent said nothing. That evening, he called Anthony into the private office. Check Danielle Brooks. Anthony raised an eyebrow. For what? Everything. You think she is stealing? I think she is hiding something. Anthony leaned against the closed door. Those are different accusations. I know. Vincent looked toward the west hallway. Start with employment records, financial history, access logs, cameras. Anthony studied him. And Grant. Vincent's eyes moved back to him. What about Grant? You asked me to investigate the maid after watching Grant speak to her. Vincent became still. Anthony had worked with him too long. Check him too. By the following afternoon, a thin folder rested on Vincent's desk. Danielle Brooks, 30 years old, born in Illinois. Community college courses in bookkeeping and business administration. No criminal record. No unexplained deposits. No disciplinary reports from previous employers. She had left a downtown hotel after her mother's illness required more flexible hours. Her current debts were ordinary and painfully transparent. Medical expenses connected to Lillian Brooks. Rent from a small apartment on the south side. A used Honda with 142,000 miles. Vincent turned a page. That is all. Anthony nodded. Unless you consider paying every bill 3 days early suspicious. Camera footage? 46 hours reviewed. And Anthony sat across from him. She works. Vincent waited. That is the exciting conclusion. Anthony continued. She cleans bedrooms, organizes supplies, drinks terrible vending machine coffee, and spends exactly 18 minutes eating lunch. The West office. She entered once. Vincent looked up. When? Last Thursday. 8:43 in the evening. How long? 1 minute and 12 seconds. Anthony placed a tablet on the desk. Security footage showed Danielle entering with a cleaning cart. She emptied a wastebasket, wiped the edge of the desk, straightened 2 chairs, and froze when voices approached the hallway. Grant entered. The camera had no audio. Danielle stepped aside. Grant said something. Her face changed. Then he closed a ledger on the desk and stood between Danielle and the door for several seconds. He never touched her. He did not need to. Danielle's eyes remained fixed on the exit. Vincent watched the footage twice. Then a third time. What was on the desk? Financial ledger from Moretti Logistics. Why was Grant reviewing it here? I asked myself the same question. Anthony placed another folder beside the first. Grant has approved 7 internal transfers during the past 4 months. All technically authorized. All unusually complicated. Vincent opened the folder. How complicated? Complicated enough that our accountants stopped asking questions after Grant explained them. Vincent looked at him. Accountants are paid to ask questions. Apparently, Danielle did not get that memo. Anthony tapped the tablet. Look at the first 12 seconds after she enters. Vincent replayed the footage. Danielle pushed her card inside. Her eyes passed over the open ledger. She stopped for less than a second, then continued working. She saw something, Vincent said. Maybe. Grant thinks she saw something. Anthony nodded. That would explain his interest. Vincent leaned back. He had begun the investigation expecting to find Danielle's secret. Instead, every record showed restraint. Every camera showed work. Every financial document showed a woman, living carefully inside the narrow margins of an ordinary paycheck. The only unusual pattern was Grant. Bring Danielle to me, Vincent said. Anthony did not move. Now. 10 minutes later, Anthony returned alone. She left early. Vincent frowned. Danielle never leaves early. Head housekeeper said she looked sick. Vincent glanced at the clock. 9:18 in the evening. Where is Grant? Anthony checked his phone. His expression changed. His car left 12 minutes ago. Vincent stood. And Danielle? Staff entrance. 9 minutes ago. The room became very quiet. Vincent reached for his coat. Then his phone rang. The head housekeeper's voice came through, confused. Mr. Moretti, I thought you should know. Danielle is still here. Vincent stopped. Where? The kitchen, sir. He looked toward Anthony. And Grant. The woman hesitated. Mr. Whitmore just came back inside. Grant Whitmore returned to the Moretti mansion at 9:24 that night, carrying no briefcase and wearing the same calm smile Vincent had distrusted for 20 years. Anthony watched him cross the entrance hall beneath the crystal chandelier. Forgot something? Anthony asked. Grant removed his gloves. A document. At this hour? Paper does not care about the clock. Anthony smiled without warmth. Vincent says that about money. Grant's eyes shifted toward the west hallway. Where is he? Busy. Grant nodded and continued walking. Anthony led him. Upstairs, Vincent stood before a security monitor with one hand resting on the desk. The camera showed Grant passing the library, then the west office, then the kitchen corridor. Vincent's expression changed. He forgot a document, Anthony said from the doorway. Apparently the document is in my kitchen. Vincent left the office. Downstairs, Danielle stood alone beside the pantry counter, pretending to organize tea boxes she had already organized twice. She had told the head housekeeper she felt sick because leaving seemed easier than explaining why Grant's name on the schedule made her chest tighten. Then she remembered her lunch bag in the staff refrigerator and came back. A small mistake. An ordinary mistake. Danielle heard polished shoes. Behind her. She stopped moving. You left early, Grant said. Danielle kept both hands on the counter. I was not feeling well. Better now? I came for my lunch bag. Grant moved to the opposite side of the island. He did not touch her. He never touched her. That was part of what made explaining him so difficult. Grant used information the way other men used locked doors. I heard Vincent ask questions about you. Danielle looked at him. I do not know what Mr. Moretti asks. Of course not. Grant adjusted his cuff. You are very good at not knowing things. Danielle's eyes hardened. I need to leave. Then leave. Grant stepped aside immediately. The doorway was open. Danielle hated the relief that moved through her. She walked toward it. Your mother's Mercy Lake balance was $86,000 for $112. Danielle stopped. Grant's voice remained conversational. After insurance adjustments. She turned slowly. Why do you know that? Records. Those are private records. Private is a flexible word. Danielle stared at him. Grant smiled. Your mother received help from a charitable medical fund during her final year. I know. Do you know who administered the fund? Danielle said nothing. Grant walked toward the pantry, leaving several feet between them. One of my companies. What do you want? The question finally came out. Grant's smile disappeared. The truth. Danielle almost laughed. From me. What did you see in the West office? Her heartbeat changed. Grant noticed. Nothing. Danielle. 2 syllables. Gentle. I clean rooms. You notice what other people miss. Her own words returned to her. Danielle understood then. Vincent had repeated them to someone. Or Grant had heard. Either possibility felt dangerous. I saw a desk, she said. A ledger. I see paper every day. Numbers. Danielle looked toward the hallway. Grant followed her eyes. You remember numbers, do you not? Silence. Bookkeeping courses. 2 years at Harold Washington College. Your mother taught payroll for a neighborhood nonprofit before she became ill. Danielle's face went still. Stop talking about my mother. Then answer me. I did not take anything. Grant studied her. I did not ask whether you took anything. The kitchen seemed to shrink. Danielle realized her mistake. Grant saw the realization. Interesting, he said. Danielle picked up her lunch bag. I am leaving. Your current payment plan is $620 a month. She stopped again. Your rent increased in October. Your car needs transmission work. Grant's tone remained polite. Losing a job now would be difficult. Danielle turned. Are you threatening my job? I am describing arithmetic. No, her voice shook, but she held his gaze. You are hiding behind arithmetic. For the first time, Grant looked irritated. Only for a second. Then the smile returned. Be careful, Danielle. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Grant stepped away. Vincent entered first. Anthony remained several feet behind him. Danielle immediately looked down. Vincent noticed. Grant smiled. Vincent. Late night. Vincent's gray eyes moved from Grant to Danielle. Apparently, Miss Brooks and I were discussing her schedule. Danielle said nothing. Vincent looked at her lunch bag, then at the tea boxes arranged in perfect rows. Danielle. She raised her eyes. Are you all right? Grant answered. She is fine. Vincent turned his head. The movement was slow. I asked Danielle. The room went silent. Grant's smile became thinner. Danielle opened her mouth. Years of experience gave her the safest answer before courage could interfere. I am fine, Mr. Moretti. Vincent studied her face. You are leaving? Yes, sir. Anthony will have a car take you home. That is not necessary. I know. Vincent stepped aside, leaving the hallway completely open. Danielle walked past him. As she reached the entrance, she heard Vincent speak behind her. Grant. Danielle stopped, but did not turn. The West office is closed until Monday. Grant's voice remained smooth. Why? Audit. One word. Danielle's hand tightened around her lunch bag. Routine. Grant asked. Vincent paused. It is now. Danielle continued outside into the Chicago cold. She reached the staff gate before her legs began to shake. Inside, Grant left 10 minutes later. Vincent watched his car disappear. Through the iron gates. He knows, Anthony said. Vincent looked toward the empty hallway. He thinks she knows. Difference. Vincent remembered the silver spoon. Danielle's lowered eyes. Her insistence that she was fine. To Grant, he said. Probably none. At 12:31 in the morning, Vincent returned from his office and noticed light beneath the kitchen door. He entered 12 minutes later. Danielle was sitting on the floor, crying into a white dish towel, and Vincent finally understood that the woman he had investigated for hiding something had been spending 3 weeks trying to survive someone else's secret. Vincent did not ask the question again. He remained seated on the far side of the kitchen island while the brass key rested between them beneath the warm pendant light. Danielle stared at it, as if the small piece of metal had become the only honest thing in the room. 5 minutes passed. Then 8. Vincent's coffee machine clicked quietly as it cooled. Snow whispered against the windows. Danielle wiped her cheeks with the white dish towel and looked toward the clock. Why are you still here? She asked. Vincent folded his hands loosely on the table. Because everyone else apparently left you alone with this. Danielle's face tightened. She looked away before fresh tears could fall. You do not even know what this is. Correct. Then you might be sitting here for nothing. I have wasted entire evenings on less important things. Danielle almost smiled. The expression appeared and disappeared so quickly Vincent wondered whether he imagined it. Mr. Moretti. Vincent. Her eyes lifted. I work for you. That does not prevent you from using my name. It usually does in houses like this. Vincent had no answer. Danielle looked back at the key. Grant knows things about my mother. Vincent's expression became still. What things? Medical bills. Her treatment. The charitable fund that helped us. Danielle swallowed. The exact balance after insurance. Vincent said nothing. He knew silence made people uncomfortable. Tonight, he used it differently. He gave Danielle room to choose the next sentence. He told me one of his companies administered the fund, she continued. I do not know if that is true. Anthony can verify it. That is not the point. Vincent nodded once. Then tell me the point. Danielle's fingers tightened around the towel. He wanted me to understand that he could reach backward into my life. Vincent's jaw shifted. He never said he would hurt me. He never touched me. He never raised his voice. She gave a tired laugh. Do you know how difficult that makes this to explain? No, the honesty surprised her. Vincent leaned back slightly. But I am listening. Danielle stared at him. Most people would ask why I did not report him. I was going to. There it is. I decided not to. Danielle's eyes narrowed. Why? Vincent looked toward the locked door. Because I watched you step away from him before he spoke. Whatever happened started before tonight. Danielle lowered her eyes. 3 weeks. Since you started here? Since Grant learned who my mother was. Vincent's voice remained calm. And the West office? Danielle froze. Vincent saw it. You investigated me. Yes. Her expression hardened. Of course you did. Danielle, you thought I was stealing. I thought you were hiding something. So you searched my life. Yes. Vincent did not soften the answer. Anthony reviewed my employment records? Yes. My finances? Yes. My mother's bills? Vincent paused. That pause answered her. Danielle stood. Unlocked the door. Vincent immediately reached for the key. Danielle stopped him. Both looked at her hand, raised between them. No, her breathing was uneven. You said the key was mine. Vincent slowly removed his hand. It is. Danielle picked it up. She could have crossed the kitchen and opened the door. Instead, she held the brass key in her palm. You are all the same, she whispered. Vincent's face changed. Maybe. Danielle looked at him sharply. That is your defense. No, Vincent's voice was quiet. It is the reason I am not asking you to trust me. Silence filled the kitchen. Then what are you asking? Nothing. Danielle stared. Vincent stood, keeping the island between them. You can leave. You can resign. You can tell Anthony never to contact you again. Tomorrow, I will still audit Grant. Why? Because his behavior became my responsibility the moment it happened under my roof. Danielle's eyes filled again. You think this is about your house? Vincent considered the words. No, he looked at her. I think I made the mistake of noticing my house before I noticed you. Danielle stopped. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, old pipes shifted behind the walls. Vincent sat down again. I cannot undo the investigation. No, I cannot make you believe me. No, but I can sit here until you decide what happens next. Danielle looked at the key in her hand. 10 seconds passed. Then 20. She slowly returned to the chair. Vincent did not move. Grant thinks I stole something, she said. Vincent's gray eyes sharpened. Did you? No, I believe you. Danielle laughed bitterly. You have not heard the rest. Then tell me the rest. She placed the key beside her hand, no longer exactly between them. I went into the West office to clean. There was a ledger open on the desk. Moretti Logistics. Danielle's eyes widened. You know? I know Grant is worried about it. She looked down. I saw one page. For how long? Maybe 30 seconds. And Danielle's fingers stopped trembling. For the first time that night, fear gave way to concentration. For transfers, she said. $72,840. Then $91,610. Then $48,200. Then the same $72,840 appeared again under a different vendor code. Vincent became completely still. Danielle continued. The dates were 11 days apart. The account endings were 047, 912, 338, and 047 again. Vincent stared at her. You memorized that? Danielle met his eyes. My mother taught bookkeeping. The kitchen changed. Vincent understood why Grant had been afraid. Danielle had taken nothing from the West office. She had not copied a page or photographed a document. She had simply looked at the wrong numbers and remembered every one. Vincent did not reach for his phone immediately. That frightened Danielle, more than if he had. He sat completely still, gray eyes fixed on the brass key beside her hand, while the 4 transfer amounts seemed to hang in the warm kitchen air. Say them again, he said. Danielle repeated every number. Same order, same vendor codes, same account endings. Vincent listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked for the dates. Danielle gave him those too. You are certain? Yes. How? Danielle looked down at her hands. My mother used to make me help with payroll for the neighborhood center. She said numbers have accents. Vincent frowned. Accents. Patterns. Repetition. The places where something feels wrong even before you know why. Danielle looked at him. That repeated $72,840 did not belong there. Vincent finally removed his phone. Danielle's shoulders tightened. Who are you calling? Anthony. Why? Because I want the original ledger secured before Grant realizes we know what page you saw. Danielle stood. No, Vincent stopped dialing. Danielle. No. You said I decide what happens next. Vincent looked at the key, then at her. You are right. He placed the phone face down on the counter. Danielle stared at him, almost suspicious of how quickly he had stopped. What do you want? He asked. I want to go home. Then go home. And tomorrow? You tell me. Danielle gave a tired laugh. You cannot possibly run your life this way. I do not. Vincent's expression remained controlled. Tonight appears to be educational. Danielle looked toward the door. She could unlock it, walk through, return to her apartment on the south side, and pretend she had never seen Grant's ledger. But Grant knew her mother's debt, her car mileage, her rent increase. Silence had already failed to make her invisible. If I leave, she said, will you still audit him? Yes. Will you use my name? Not without your permission. Will Grant know I spoke to you? Vincent considered the question carefully. He may assume it. Danielle closed her eyes. That is what I am afraid of. Vincent's voice softened. Then tell me what would make you feel safe. She looked at him. You really do not know, do you? No, the answer came without pride. Danielle sat again. Men with power always think safety means putting more powerful men in a hallway. Vincent almost glanced toward the door where Anthony waited somewhere beyond sight. He stopped himself. What does it mean to you? Knowing what happens before it happens. Danielle's voice became steadier. Knowing who has my name. Knowing what is being said about me. Knowing I will not walk into work and discover everyone has decided I am dishonest because one important man spoke first. Vincent understood. Not completely. Enough. Transparency, he said. Choice, Danielle corrected. The word landed harder. Vincent nodded. Choice. Danielle studied him. Do you believe me? The question was barely above a whisper. Vincent looked at the woman across from him. 3 weeks of records. 46 hours of security footage. A $38,000 billing error she found and allowed someone else to claim. A life measured in careful payments and 18-minute lunches. Then Grant Whitmore, using a dead woman's medical bills as conversation. Vincent had spent the evening searching for evidence. The answer had been sitting in front of him before he knew the question. He reached for his phone. Danielle's face fell. I knew it. Wait. Vincent called Anthony. The response came immediately. Yes. Wake the attorneys. Danielle froze. Vincent. He raised one finger, not commanding her, asking for 1 second. Secure the Moretti logistics records. Freeze Grant Whitmore's access to company systems and estate financial files. Anthony became silent. On what authority? Mine. Understood. Vincent looked at Danielle. And Anthony? Yes. Nobody questions Danielle Brooks. Nobody searches her belongings. Nobody contacts her family, former employers, or landlord. Nobody speaks to her about this without her permission. Danielle stared at him. Anthony paused. Including me? Including you. Understood. Vincent ended the call and placed the phone on the counter. Danielle did not move. Does that answer you? He asked. Her eyes filled again, but the tears did not fall. You believed me before checking the numbers. No, Danielle's expression changed. Vincent continued. I checked you for 3 weeks without understanding that was what I was doing. I saw enough. Silence settled between them. Danielle looked at the brass key. Slowly, she pushed it across the counter toward Vincent. He did not touch it. What does that mean? He asked. It means I am staying long enough to finish this conversation. Vincent nodded. Nothing more. Danielle leaned back and took a breath that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her lungs. There is something else. Vincent's eyes sharpened. About the ledger? About my mother. He waited. Danielle looked toward the dark kitchen window. Grant lied about the charitable fund. How do you know? Because my mother kept every letter she ever received. Danielle's voice steadied. The company Grant named did not administer her account. Vincent became still. Then why would he claim it did? Danielle met his eyes. Because he wanted me to believe he had access to records he should never have seen. The room went silent. Vincent finally understood that the missing money was only one problem. Somewhere inside his businesses, Grant Whitmore had built a system that reached into private lives, and Danielle had accidentally shown Vincent the first loose thread. He looked at the key between them. Danielle. Yes. Tomorrow morning, Grant is coming here. Fear flashed across her face. Vincent saw it and immediately added, only if you agree. Danielle stared at him for a long moment. Then her eyes became steady. I agree. At 8:30 the next morning, Danielle Brooks sat in the Moretti dining room, wearing the same pale gray housekeeping uniform she had worn while crying on the kitchen floor 7 hours earlier. She had gone home for 3 hours, showered, changed, and returned because fear had already taken enough of her schedule. Vincent noticed the uniform the moment she entered. You did not have to work today. Danielle placed her canvas lunch bag beside the chair. I know. Then why are you dressed for work? Because Grant does not get to decide what I wear to my own truth. Vincent said nothing. Anthony Russo stood near the windows, with two attorneys from the Moretti corporate office. 3 sealed folders rested on the long dining table. No security guards waited in the room. No men blocked the doors. Danielle had asked for that. Vincent had agreed. At 8:42, Grant Whitmore arrived. His expression remained calm until he saw Danielle seated beside attorney Rebecca Sloan. Then something changed behind his eyes. Interesting, Grant said. Vincent remained at the head of the table. Sit. Grant removed his coat and took the chair opposite Danielle. Is this about the audit? Yes. Then why is housekeeping here? Danielle's fingers tightened once beneath the table. Rebecca noticed. Vincent noticed too. Her name is Danielle Brooks. Grant looked at Vincent. Of course. Use it. Silence. Grant leaned back. Danielle Brooks. Why is she here? Vincent nodded toward Rebecca. The attorney opened the first folder. 4 internal transfers from Moretti Logistics were flagged for duplicate routing patterns and irregular vendor codes. Grant smiled. By whom? Rebecca did not look at Danielle. That is not relevant. It becomes relevant when an employee outside finance makes accusations she cannot understand. Danielle's heartbeat quickened. Vincent watched her eyes move toward the dining room door. It was open. He had left it open before she arrived. Danielle saw it. She stayed. Rebecca continued. The amounts were $72,840, $91,610, $48,200, and a repeated $72,840. Grant's smile disappeared. Only for a second. Danielle saw it. Those numbers are incomplete, he said. Then complete them, Vincent replied. Grant looked at him. Vincent, financial structures at this level are complicated. I know. Household employees do not. The room became still. Danielle lowered her eyes. Then she remembered the brass key on the kitchen counter. Choice. She raised her head. Vendor 047 appeared twice, she said. Grant turned toward her. Danielle continued. The second transfer was coded as facility consulting, but the date was 11 days after the first payment. You saw one page for 30 seconds. Grant's words came too quickly. Rebecca stopped writing. Anthony looked at Vincent. Danielle's breathing slowed. I never told you how long I saw the page. Grant froze. The silence that followed was absolute. Vincent did not smile. Interesting, he said. Grant recovered quickly. You mentioned camera footage. No, Anthony said. We did not. Rebecca opened the second folder. Last night, after Mr. Moretti authorized a records freeze, our forensic accounting team identified 12 transfers using repeated vendor endings. 3 receiving entities share a registered agent connected to Whitmore Administrative Holdings. Grant's face hardened. This is absurd. Then the audit will prove that, Vincent said. You froze my access based on the word of the help? Vincent's chair moved back quietly. Danielle stiffened. Vincent did not approach Grant. He simply stood. Her name is Danielle Brooks. Grant looked at him. You are risking millions because a maid remembered numbers? No, Vincent's voice remained low. I am protecting millions because an employee noticed what my executives missed. Danielle looked at him. Grant laughed once. You believe her? The question was meant for Vincent. Danielle felt it land on her. Every supervisor who had ignored a complaint. Every guest who had blamed her before asking a question. Every room where an expensive voice had spoken first. Danielle looked at Vincent. He did not answer for her. He waited. Danielle understood. Ask me, she said. Grant frowned. What? You keep asking him if he believes me. Danielle's hand stopped trembling. Ask me what I know. Grant stared at her. Rebecca closed her pen. Anthony became perfectly still. Fine, Grant said. What do you know? Danielle recited the 4 amounts. The dates. The account endings. Then she described the spacing of the entries on the ledger page, the blue correction mark beside the third transfer, and the vendor abbreviation Grant had partially covered when he entered the West office. Rebecca opened a scanned copy of the ledger. Her eyes moved across the page. Exact match, she said. Grant said, nothing. Danielle looked directly at him. I did not steal your ledger. Her voice was clear. I remembered it. Grant's face lost its practiced calm. Vincent watched the mask disappear and felt no satisfaction. Only clarity. Rebecca slid a formal notice across the table. Mr. Whitmore, your administrative authority is suspended pending the full audit. All relevant records have been preserved. Any additional concerns will be handled through counsel and the appropriate legal process. Grant looked at Vincent. After 20 years? Vincent's gray eyes remained steady. After 20 years, you should have known I eventually checked the numbers. Grant stood. Nobody stopped him. Nobody needed to. At the doorway, he turned toward Danielle. She did not look down. Her eyes stayed steady. Grant left. The front door closed somewhere beyond the hall. Danielle remained seated. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Vincent looked toward Rebecca. What about the medical records? Rebecca opened the third folder. We found unauthorized database inquiries connected to a Whitmore contractor account. Danielle closed her eyes. Her mother had been dead for 2 years, yet someone had still found a way to turn Lillian Brooks's suffering into leverage. Vincent's voice became quieter. Danielle. She opened her eyes. You were right. Danielle looked at the open dining room door. Then at Vincent. I know. 3 simple words. No apology. No lowered eyes. Vincent Moretti had never heard dignity sound so quiet, and the entire room went silent. Danielle returned to work the following Monday and discovered that the mansion looked exactly the same, which somehow felt stranger than if every wall had changed. The black marble still reflected the morning lights. The grandfather clock still ran 4 minutes slow. Anthony still forgot his gloves near the east entrance. The chef still hummed old Motown songs whenever breakfast service became complicated. But Grant Whitmore's navy coat no longer appeared in the west hallway, and Danielle no longer measured every room by its nearest exit. She noticed that difference at 7:12 in the morning while arranging coffee cups in the breakfast room. Her hands were steady. Vincent noticed too. He stood near the windows with a financial report in one hand and watched Danielle place the last cup beside the silver service. You are staring, she said without looking at him. Vincent lowered the report. Most employees pretend not to notice. I was hired to notice what other people miss. He recognized the sentence. Apparently. Danielle turned toward him. Did you need something, Mr. Moretti? Vincent, we are at work. That is unfortunate. Danielle almost smiled. Almost. Did you need something? Vincent placed the report on the table. Rebecca completed the first stage of the audit. Danielle's expression changed. And the transfers you remembered were part of a larger pattern. More than $2 million moved through vendor accounts over 18 months. Danielle became still. Grant. The records point to him and 2 contractors. The attorneys have preserved everything and referred the matter through the appropriate legal channels. Will I have to testify? Maybe. Vincent saw her shoulders tighten. Rebecca will explain every step before you decide anything that requires your consent. Danielle looked at him carefully. You remembered. Choice. 1 word. Danielle nodded. Vincent continued. The medical database access was separate, but connected to a contractor Grant used. Your mother's records were viewed 3 times. Danielle looked toward the window. Snow covered the courtyard in a clean white layer. 3 times, she repeated. I am sorry. Danielle gave a small, tired laugh. You did not do it. It happened inside systems connected to my businesses. There you go again. Vincent frowned. What? Trying to carry every bad decision made by someone who works near you. Responsibility matters. Yes. Danielle met his eyes. So does knowing which responsibility is actually yours? Vincent had no immediate answer. Danielle picked up the empty coffee tray. You should practice. Practice what? Not controlling the entire universe before breakfast. She walked toward the kitchen. Vincent watched her leave. Anthony appeared from the hallway. She talks to you differently. Vincent picked up the financial report. Do not start. I said nothing. You were about to. Anthony smiled. I am learning restraint. Learn faster. By noon, Danielle was called to Rebecca's temporary office in the library. She expected more questions about Grant. Instead, Rebecca placed a job description on the desk. Junior accounting assistant. Moretti Urban Properties, a legal real estate management company headquartered downtown. Danielle read the first page twice. What is this? An opening. Did Vincent tell you to give me this? Rebecca smiled. He told me specifically not to give you anything. Danielle raised an eyebrow. That sounds more like him. I reviewed your community college records. I also reviewed the duplicate invoice you caught and your statement about the ledger. Rebecca folded her hands. You have pattern recognition skills our entry-level accounting team could use. Danielle looked at the salary. It was nearly twice her housekeeping pay. She immediately pushed the paper back. No, Rebecca did not touch it. Why? Because I am not accepting a reward for being afraid in the right kitchen. Rebecca's expression softened. Good. Danielle frowned. Rebecca slid a second paper forward. Then interview. Danielle looked down. A standard application form. Employment history. Education. References. You are serious. Very. And if I fail, we hire someone else. Danielle sat back. For the first time, the opportunity did not feel like charity. It felt almost insulting in the normal way job applications were insulting. She smiled. When, Thursday at 10, Danielle picked up the application. That evening, Vincent found her at the kitchen counter studying accounting software tutorials on her phone during her break. He stopped in the doorway. Danielle looked up. Rebecca told you? No, Anthony. No. Vincent glanced at the application beside her. I have eyes. Danielle returned to the tutorial. Then use them somewhere else. Vincent remained at the doorway. You are applying. I am interviewing. There is a difference? Danielle looked at him. A large one. Vincent nodded. Good luck. She blinked. That is all. What were you expecting? An opinion. I have been advised to practice not controlling the universe before breakfast. Danielle smiled. It is 7 at night. I am extending the exercise. Vincent turned to leave. Vincent. He stopped. Danielle looked at the open kitchen door, then at him. Thank you. Vincent's expression became careful. For the job. No, her voice softened. For leaving the door open. Vincent looked at the doorway. He had not thought about it. Maybe that was the point. Good night, Danielle. He walked away. Danielle returned to the tutorial. On the counter beside her, the brass kitchen key remained untouched. Nobody had locked the door since that night. 6 weeks later, Danielle Brooks stood inside a glass conference room on the 22nd floor of Moretti Urban Properties and explained to 3 senior accountants why a repeating vendor pattern had been classified incorrectly. She wore a navy blazer over a cream blouse, her natural black hair neatly pulled back, and an employee badge that no longer identified her as housekeeping. Nobody interrupted. Nobody looked toward Vincent Moretti for approval because Vincent was not in the room. Danielle had insisted on that. Her interview had lasted 78 minutes. She had completed 2 accounting exercises, missed 1 software question, corrected her own mistake, and challenged an interviewer who used the wrong formula. Rebecca Sloan hired her 3 days later. Vincent learned about the decision from Human Resources. Anthony laughed for nearly a minute when he discovered Vincent had been the last person informed. Danielle started on a Monday. By Friday, she had already found a duplicate maintenance invoice worth $9,400. This time, her name remained on the correction report. At 6:30 that evening, Danielle returned to the Moretti mansion to collect the final box of personal items from her old staff locker. Her housekeeping uniform rested folded inside, pale gray fabric carrying the faint scent of laundry soap. Danielle touched the sleeve once. She did not hate the uniform. Honest work had never embarrassed her. Being treated as invisible had. She closed the box and walked toward the kitchen. The mansion was quiet. Snow had begun melting along the courtyard walls, and water tapped softly against the windows. Danielle made coffee and sat at the island. The brass key was still there, resting in a small ceramic dish near the fruit bowl. She picked it up. Planning to lock me in? Vincent's voice came from the doorway. Danielle looked up. The white Mafia Boss stood beneath the hallway light in a charcoal suit. One hand in his pocket, his expression controlled but less cold than it had been 6 weeks earlier. You should make more noise when you walk. I have been told. By frightened people? Mostly Anthony. Danielle smiled and placed the key back in the dish. Vincent remained in the doorway. I heard about the maintenance invoice. News travels quickly in your universe. $9,400 travels quickly in every universe. It was coded twice. I know. Then why are you impressed? Vincent considered the question. I am trying to practice normal encouragement. Needs work. I suspected. Danielle took another sip of coffee. Vincent still had not entered. She noticed. You can sit down. He looked at the kitchen. Are you sure? Danielle's expression softened. Vincent, it is a chair. I have learned that objects in this kitchen occasionally become symbols. She laughed. A real laugh. Vincent stepped inside and took the seat across from her. The door remained open. For several moments, neither spoke. It was not the silence from 6 weeks earlier. That silence had been filled with fear and questions. This one simply existed. Rebecca says the investigation is moving forward, Danielle said. Vincent nodded. The attorneys preserved the financial records and the unauthorized database access logs. Grant's authority remains terminated. The rest belongs to the legal process now. You are comfortable with that? No, Danielle raised an eyebrow. Vincent looked at his coffee. Apparently, discomfort is educational. Look at you learning. Do not tell Anthony. Danielle smiled, then became quiet. I visited my mother's grave yesterday. Vincent waited. I told her about the new job. What did she say? Danielle stared at him. Vincent's expression remained serious for exactly 2 seconds. That was almost a joke, she said. I am practicing. Also needs work. I suspected. Danielle looked toward the brass key. She would have liked that I interviewed. Why? My mother hated favors with invisible strings. Vincent nodded. Smart woman. She also hated expensive suits. Vincent looked down at his jacket. I am beginning to question whether your mother would have liked me. Danielle laughed softly. Eventually, Vincent accepted the answer. The kitchen clock moved past 7. Danielle finished her coffee and stood. I should go. Vincent stood too. He did not offer a driver. He did not ask Anthony to follow her. He had learned that concern did not automatically grant authority. Danielle lifted her box. Vincent looked at it. May I? She handed it to him. He carried the box to the front hall. At the door, Danielle took it back. Thank you. Vincent nodded. Danielle. She turned. Are you all right? 6 weeks earlier, the question would have broken something inside her. Tonight, she considered it without fear. Tonight, yes. Vincent nodded and stepped back. Danielle reached for the door. Then she paused. Coffee next Friday? Vincent looked surprised. Here. Maybe downtown. Public place. Very public. Your choice. Danielle smiled. You are learning. Vincent's expression softened. Friday. Danielle opened the door, then looked back at the kitchen hallway. The door there remained open. The key remained untouched. A powerful man had once locked that door and believed safety was something he could create through control. A frightened woman had taught him that safety begins when a person is given the choice to stay, speak, leave, or return. Danielle stepped into the Chicago evening carrying her own box, her own future, and her mother's stubborn belief that dignity never needed permission. Vincent watched from the doorway, but did not follow. And that day, the world remembered what dignity looks like.